right. So I just like to hit it, man. I
I'm
know
ready when you are.
we're running a little bit of a tight schedule because you got to get to the airport, leave here about 10:15.
Yeah, we got like an hour.
Okay. But so I just want to tell you, man, like, first of all, thank you for taking your time to come out here and do this. Like you were just saying, you've been really busy, a week of seminars straight, traveling, flights, and then you got more flights. But anytime I get an opportunity to sit down with the high level athletes of our sport, I jump at the chance because there's just so much wisdom and knowledge that can benefit people just from taking an hour of your time and being able to share your story. How I like to do the show is just kind of take it from the beginning, like where you're from, where you grew up. And I know like your childhood was a big part of growing into who you are today. I think it's a powerful story and I'd love to hear it. So,
Yeah, well, first, it's my pleasure to be here. Thanks for the great morning and letting me use all your toys.
yeah, it was nice, huh?
Yeah. Perfect way to start the day. So I was born in Cincinnati, Ohio. I lived there until I was 8. My mom is from Oklahoma. And then we moved to Oklahoma to be near her family, and been there ever since. My father is a lifetime martial artist. He's also a musician. He was playing the organ professionally in Ohio when I grew up. So Dad was really busy at the church. He was like in charge of the whole musical program there. He led the choir. He even sang, and he played, midnight mass, all the masses, Easter, and that sort of stuff. So I spent a lot of time in the Catholic Church there while my dad was playing the organ. And then outside of that, he was training martial arts. So he's a lifetime martial artist. He grew up doing boxing, and then he was inspired by Bruce Lee and followed in Bruce Lee's footsteps. And he was training at a Jeet Kune Do school in Cincinnati, Ohio, the Kali Academy. And through the Kali Academy, he got exposed to 2 of Bruce Lee's best students, Richard Bustillo and Danny Inosanto, both of whom are incredible martial artists. Just a wealth of knowledge between those guys. And when we moved to Oklahoma, he kind of decided to switch directions a little bit and go all in on martial arts. He was working as a physical therapist at a hospital, and he was an assistant instructor at the academy in Ohio. And so he already had a lot of teaching experience, and he had spent a lot of time doing martial arts and training and seeking out instruction through Jeet Kune Do. And he started teaching martial arts at the hospital that he was working at. And the class grew in size really fast. And he kind of transformed our garage into a bit of a home gym academy. And he was doing some extra classes out of the garage. And then he just decided to go all in and open his first school. The school opened in 92. I was 9 years old. And it's just been a crazy journey ever since. But through Jeet Kune Do, he found out about Jiu Jitsu, discovered Jiu Jitsu, and he was traveling from Oklahoma to California to train with the Gracies. And then later on, he met the Machado brothers and transitioned into training with them. And then one day, he got a call, and it was Carlos Machado. And Carlos was going to go to Dallas, Texas. Chuck Norris was one of the Machado brothers' students, and Chuck wanted to keep learning jiu-jitsu while he was in Texas to film Walker, Texas Ranger. And so he decided to bring Carlos with him. And Carlos called my dad and said, "Yeah, I'm going to go to Dallas, Texas. I think that's near you, right? Would love to see you there." And my dad's like, "Yeah, Dallas is, 3.5 hours away." And that was really a huge game changer for us, because when Carlos went to Dallas, now we had a high-level black belt that was within driving distance, just a few hours away. And so the access and the frequency at which my father could train and learn just went to the next level. Because before that, it was once or twice a year, however many times he could get to California. And then having Carlos in Texas was just amazing for us. So my dad was his first original student in Dallas, and Carlos was first teaching out of the studio where they filmed Walker, Texas Ranger. I'll never forget the mat room there that they let us use. It had a light bulb above the door, and when that light turned red, we all had to stop and be quiet because they were just filming in the next room.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah. So Carlos started out there, and then eventually he opened his own school and all that. But really, that was it. I mean, from there we just went all in. My father kind of transitioned the school from a Jeet Kune Do school to a Vale Tudo school. It was called Lovato School of Brazilian Jiu Jitsu and Vale Tudo. He kept his roots alive of Jeet Kune Do and being a complete martial artist. So we were a school of boxing, Thai boxing, Jiu Jitsu, just basically mixed martial arts. And
And that's before mixed martial arts was really a thing.
yeah, I mean, the UFC was just starting and had not taken off yet by any means. So, my father was ahead of his time. He was the first one to bring jiu-jitsu to Oklahoma, to really that area of the country, because Carlos wasn't even there yet. And my dad was bringing the Machado brothers and the Gracies to teach seminars before Carlos moved to Texas. So
How did he get connected with the Gracies pre-UFC?
Through the Jeet Kune Do
Got it.
instructor
Okay.
conferences. They held an instructor conference every year in California, and Bruce Lee, just being a genius, he understood that you needed to know how to fight in all ranges of combat. So there was weapons, different striking arts, mostly revolved around Muay Thai, but a lot of boxing, even like savate, which is a French kicking art. And then there was the trapping, the Wing Chun, Pinjak Silat. And then there was some very rough grappling inside of Jeet Kune Do back in those days. It was like catch wrestling, catch can, and some like shoot fighting type stuff where a lot of like leg locks and just different controlling positions. It was really rough around the edges. And I already favored that. I was doing boxing as a kid and trying to find ways to compete. And that was the best way for me to be active in a competition sense, was doing amateur boxing as a kid. And I loved it, but I liked it, but I didn't love it. And I enjoyed the grappling that we did, although it was very rough, and we were doing it on carpet, which was on concrete. So it wasn't comfortable, but I gravitated towards that. And then when my father started learning jiu-jitsu, he really fell in love with it as well. He's a smaller guy. He was like 145 back in those days. And so that just was amazing for him as well, being a smaller guy and starting to understand the technique of jiu-jitsu. He just really fell in love with it. And I was a big kid. Obviously, I'm a big guy. So, by the time I was 13, 14, like I was like a grown man size, so,
Yeah.
but a smaller grown man. And I could be a great training partner for my dad. And so he was learning jiu-jitsu, bringing it home. And then we would spend hours just drilling, studying, watching tapes, VHS tapes, and trying to figure it out on our own and just drill and go over what he was learning. And then when Carlos moved to Texas, then we had access, so much closer. And my dad was going down there like once a week to do a private lesson, train in the morning class, and then come right back home and then teach at our academy. And so, then our level started to increase much faster. And fast forward, he got his black belt in 2003. I got mine in 2004. And we were the first American father and son jiu-jitsu black belts.
Wow.
Ever. And of course, the first in our state. But I grew up never having a black belt instructor in my state to learn from day in and day out. It was always just me and my dad on our own, learning as much as we could, and then bringing it home to our students and helping them just try to keep up, just sharing everything we were learning and you know, that process really molded us as students. Every time I traveled, I always had a notebook. I was always trying to absorb as much as I could. I would, you know, spend all day, train morning, night. I would spend a lot of time in Dallas with Carlos and help him with his private lessons. And I would ask as many questions as I could, take all the notes that I could, go back home to my dad, and then show him everything that I learned. And then we would go over it and we would teach our students at the same time. So it was like more repetition for us. And then they would learn, and I would try to like have them play the games that I saw and try to have them, you know, just know everything that I was learning so they could help push me as well. Because I was competing. I was already going to Brazil. The first time I went to Brazil, I just turned 16. It was in 1999. I went there to compete in the World Championships. And so it was always that process of just traveling, investing, sacrificing, learning, and then trying to bring it home to our students and you know, keep them on the same page with us. And that's it. I'm still there today. I still live in Oklahoma. I took over my father's school in around 2009 into 2010. I was 25 years old, going on 26, and that's it, man. We just never stopped, and still here today.
Dude, I hope they make a movie of this someday. You know, have you ever thought about that?
Actually, you know, I've mentioned it several times, and I kind of stopped talking about it because I don't like to talk about things that aren't finished yet.
Yeah.
But I'm very, very close to finishing a book.
Okay.
And part of the reason that's taken longer than what I expected is that I'm still writing the story just by my life.
Yeah.
And but it's basically done, and should be out next year. But I've had like little documentaries. Flow Grappling's done some stuff. Will Harris did a documentary. Shout out to Will Harris. Amazing talent that he has, and that was about my MMA comeback. I fought in Japan after everything went down. With Bellator not being able to fight anymore, I was able to do a comeback fight in Japan, and he did a documentary about it. But yeah, you know, just very fortunate, very blessed to come up in the time that I did, and have the opportunities and kind of be in the ground floor of so much evolution in the martial arts world. You know, Bruce Lee was the person that we looked up to. You know, he changed my dad's life. My dad was a huge Bruce Lee fan as a kid, and that changed his life and led him into martial arts. And I got to have access to some of Bruce's top students and learn from them as a child, and of course my father, and then find out about Jiu Jitsu and be at an age where it's not like it is today. You know, it's still in the roots, but be young enough to get involved, go to Brazil, compete in the World Championships, and see the beginnings of the sport of Jiu-Jitsu take off.
Yeah.
The very first World Championships was in '96, and I was there in '99. So I was almost there in the very, very beginning. And then, growing up, seeing the sport just become what it is today, and MMA as well, and kind of be at that perfect age where I was in the beginning, but then still be around today, and still be able to compete with the young guys, and really like be a part of what's going on these days, and compete on these big shows, and just see the growth and the talent that we have today is just amazing. But living that jiu-jitsu life, and then do MMA as well, and then come back to jiu-jitsu again, and really get to kind of see the fruit of all the labor, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, from the OGs, the legends that I was inspired by, you know, I try to stand for them, and be that kind of figure that, you know, like from my days where the sport, I mean, it still is, you know, there's more Brazilians dominating the competition scene. for the most part than Americans when you look at the overall medal count, especially in the gi. But I got to be like the face of American jiu-jitsu and non-Brazilians in the sport. And then see what it's become today, where jiu-jitsu is just blown up. There's jiu-jitsu all over the world, and there's really high-level competitors and coaches in all corners of the world, and just get to live this life that I never imagined would reach this point where jiu-jitsu is so popular and so many amazing people are practicing, and there's just like the network and the opportunities and the lifestyle that you can live through jiu-jitsu is just insane today. And I never imagined it would be that way when I was a kid. It wasn't like the kids today. They can really see what's possible. We had no idea what was possible and where it was going to go and what it could become.
Well, you were kind of paving the path. It never been done before.
Yeah, I definitely feel that we were a part of that.
And also it seems like the Brazilian culture, for whatever reason, kind of adopted you and rallied around you.
Yeah,
Is that fair, a fair assessment?
Yeah, it wasn't easy, but I came up in a time where you had to go to Brazil to learn, and if you wanted to do high level competition, I mean, outside of the Pan came to the U.S., but that's once a year, and it didn't get everybody. If you really wanted to see what jiu-jitsu was in that time, you had to go to Brazil. And so I'm so thankful for that. Nowadays, there's high level black belts that have never been to Brazil, never even trained there or competed there, and it's beautiful. But I have such a strong feeling of gratitude for seeing it there and experiencing that. It really molded me, and of course I fell in love with the culture. I lived in Brazil for a period of time, for like 4 months.
And you speak fluent Portuguese too, yeah?
I'm not 100% fluent, but
Okay.
but I'm pretty decent. Like I can go to Brazil and do whatever I need to do. I've taught seminars in Portuguese in Brazil, so I really try to take the time to learn the language, learn about the culture, and I think I earned everyone's respect.
Yeah.
The experience and the memories that I had in Brazil as a kid, it made it such an important place for me. And I've never stopped going back. I always go to compete. For MMA, I was going to the south of Brazil in Curitiba, and I was doing my MMA camps there, which was more like heavily Muay Thai based in the south of Brazil. And a lot of amazing legendary MMA fighters came from that area in Curitiba: Shogun, Anderson, Vanderlei.
Yeah, that's where shoot box was at back in the day. Yeah?
I was training with the shoot box school. Basically, they were descendants of shoot box.
And that was when they were just you hear stories about how it's just a murderer's row in there, and every practice was a fight to the death.
I can talk about that from experience.
Oh, wow, man.
Yeah.
What's fascinating about your career is, your base is basically MMA.
Yes. I love to preach that. Jiu-jitsu now, people refer to it as a sport, and parents they'll talk about it that way, like, oh, I was looking for a new sport for my kid, and people will talk about students as athletes. And it's amazing where the sport has gone. But for me, I grew up as a martial artist. My father is a martial artist, and I like for everyone to embody that martial arts mindset. We're martial artists, and jiu-jitsu is a martial art. And so, what does it mean to be a martial artist and live as a martial artist versus practicing a sport and being an athlete? And so, it's been an amazing journey, as I said, having those roots as a martial artist, doing Jeet Kune Do, and really embodying a student mindset. Learn as much as you can about all the martial arts and put it together to create your combat style. Your form of self-defense. That's what Bruce Lee preached. Take what's useful, discard what isn't, and learn everything. and that's how I grew up. And so I've always been in love with all forms of martial arts, and so MMA for me was a no-brainer. I always knew I would do MMA at some point, because that's the ultimate expression, the ultimate challenge for a martial artist. And that's how I like to talk to my students, and help them embody that mindset as a martial artist, and using martial arts to help you be a better person, and apply everything that we learn on the mats in life, and just keep growing, keep challenging yourself forever.
Is your academy now more jiu-jitsu based, or you still have like an overall mixed martial arts approach?
We're definitely more jiu-jitsu based. Jiu-jitsu is just more accepting, right?
sure.
And easier on the body,
Yeah.
than doing striking in MMA. But we do have a Muay Thai program. We do have boxing, Muay Thai. We have MMA classes, and I do have a few professional fighters,
Okay.
who have been successful. It's not my focus, but if someone wants to take that path and they've kind of earned that position, they've come up through the curriculum and they've done everything right, and they're doing their jiu-jitsu, they're competing, they're doing the Muay Thai, and they're showing me that they're putting themselves in a position to be the kind of worker and the kind of student that I would look for in someone doing MMA, then I will totally say, okay, let's get you ready. Let's put you in the cage. And so it's a very small group, but I still put the gloves on. I still work with those guys. I still spar. I still do MMA stuff with them. And I respect that. If someone wants to take that ultimate challenge, I want to help make that possible for them.
Yeah. Like we don't do any MMA here, but I did MMA for a while back when I was like a blue and purple belt at an academy in Everett, actually fairly close to where we were at last night. And now I'm still friends with that coach. And so he has his fighters cross train here to get to have more of a focus on jiu-jitsu. But I'd love to get your opinion on something, is because as MMA starts to, it's exploded now. And a lot of fighters are kind of like, oh, the gi is dead. The gi is like, you hear that these days, right? And I still say like, no. The gi is the foundation and the essence of jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Do you think training in a gi is something that fighters should still be doing? Or do you?
Yes and no.
Okay.
I think every fighter should have a roots, a foundation in something. And if you just learn jiu-jitsu from MMA, you're really going to have like such a limited arsenal, and you're not going to dive deep enough to have a full understanding of jiu-jitsu, and there will be holes for sure. I think there are a lot of benefits of putting on the gi, and I think every martial art you should dive in and practice it for the sake of that art. So because MMA is its own thing, right? Like every martial art, Muay Thai changes when there's takedowns. Boxing changes when there's takedowns. Boxing changes when there's little gloves versus big gloves. Wrestling is different in MMA than what it is in pure wrestling. None of it really fully translates to MMA. MMA is its own thing. Everything changes. Great wrestlers can be taken down by not great wrestlers in MMA. Great strikers can be knocked out by someone that has zero world-class kickboxing experience. And even great jiu-jitsu guys can get in trouble on the ground in MMA once they're striking. So it's a completely different thing. And you have to train it you have to train striking, train takedowns, train jiu-jitsu for MMA if you're going to fight MMA. But I'm a firm believer in being a student of each particular art and doing it for that art as well, to really have an appreciation and a deeper level of understanding. Going to, Thailand and doing traditional Muay Thai, it's not all going to be valid for MMA, but there is skills and things that you can learn and develop for that will help you, and it gives you a deeper appreciation. So I think you should try to be a student of everything, and for jiu-jitsu, that means putting on the gi.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, when MMA is done, are you going to be done? Like, that's the martial arts mindset. Like, we don't want to just train for fights.
Yeah.
You train for life. You train to learn and be a student forever, and you know, have something that you can, at the end of the day, you could say, all right, I'm a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and now I can teach, I can give back. You have a deeper understanding. Like, it's not just about fighting, it's living the martial arts. And so I definitely have, like, everyone is required to come up in my school in the gi, going through our curriculum, earning their blue belt, and getting that foundation. That's what I'm so passionate about. So I want you to have that. And if maybe you used to wrestle or whatever, and you come in and you want to fight someday, great. You still got to put the gi on, come up in our curriculum, show me that you are willing to be just like everybody else, right? Like, just be a regular student, come to class, do the fundamental program, and earn your spot, right? And just be a great student, be humble to put on a gi, go through the process. Those are the kind of people that I want. And then I know that you have the foundation that I want.
Yeah.
Right. And then we can build from there. And of course, we'll transition over into doing just MMA style training and getting you ready for the fight. But
I have one of my students is a pro fighter, but he only comes to no-gi stuff. And I've been on him for years. I'm like, Chris, I need you in a gi. Like, it's going to change your jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And Bouchesha was actually in town. This was a few months back. And Chris goes, hey, Marcus, what do you think that I should put the gi on as a fighter? And he goes, no, don't do gi until you're done with fighting. And I was like, come on, Marcus. you know? So now Chris is always like, hey, Bouchesha says I don't need the gi. I'm like,
see, even regular no gi grappling, it's still going to be substantially different when there's gloves on and you're throwing punches. Like,
for sure.
Even that isn't 100% transferable, right? So the thing about putting on the gi is, when I was fighting MMA, I was still teaching classes, still doing gi jiu-jitsu, and it was more like a meditation.
Okay.
Because MMA is so brutal, and so intense. And so I would still roll at least once a week with my gi on, just to kind of get lost and take a little bit of stress off. And it's almost like a workout that is a recovery based, right? So I can move around in the gi. I'm burning more calories, right? You got to make weight, and I can move just for fun and play. It's just like active play. But once a week, I think it's good to still put the gi on, even if you're fighting, just to move and just to stay in that train of thought, where MMA style jiu-jitsu and even no gi, it's just so scrambly, and it's just like get up and wrestle, you know, and you can get really far from the technical side. It just becomes more of an athletic based jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And I don't like to get too far away from the technique. And of course, I think there are a lot of benefits, especially when it comes to the bottom. If you can maintain space and recover position and be able to survive some of the bad positions, like bottom side and bottom half and mount and all that kind of stuff, if you can escape properly in the gi, then it's that much easier when you take it off without the friction, without the handles, and then being able to really hold you and pin you down. If you can escape and create space technically with the gi on, if you're a great athlete and then you take the gi off, well, then it's going to be that much easier. So I do think there are a lot of benefits. However, everything is different when it comes to MMA, and you must practice an MMA style of striking, of wrestling, of jiu-jitsu, for sure. That's the focus. But it doesn't hurt. It definitely doesn't hurt. People still hit the bags. They still do box. Like you're still going to want to work out and move and do all the other arts. Why not do gi jiu-jitsu too?
Mm-hmm. When you, I guess, is it safe to assume like through your 20s is when you were really focused on primarily jiu-jitsu?
Mm-hmm.
So when you were like, you know, at your prime, were you also
Still in my prime?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But when you were like always competing in the gi at Worlds every single year,
Mm-hmm.
were you also cross training MMA too?
I was doing. I would say I can't really put a percentage on it, but yes, I've always done at least a little bit of Muay Thai, and of course ADCC would come around, and so then we're doing a lot of no-gi and wrestling and grappling and stuff. And I did have a team of fighters. We've always had at least a couple fighters since I was a kid in our school, and so I would still scrap with them. Even when I was doing gi jiu-jitsu, but obviously that was my focus, was just trying to, you know, accomplish my goals and make my mark in jiu-jitsu. So it wasn't that much, but in fact, my Muay Thai instructor, actually I have two instructors. They're brothers, just like my jiu-jitsu instructors, Salo and Shanji. It's pretty interesting. But my MMA coaches and teachers, they're brothers, and I met them in 2009, and I started bringing them out in 2010. And they were the older brother, who's my main coach. He was also helping me with my MMA guys at that time, and so I was bringing him out regularly at that time. And anytime I had access or I was around them, I was always doing a lot of Muay Thai. I love Muay Thai too, and so then when I started fighting in 2014, I already knew who I wanted in my corner, who was going to be my head coach for MMA.
So how old were you when you switched to really focusing on MMA?
30. And then I had my first fight at 31.
And you mentioned earlier, you always, even in the beginning, you knew eventually that's where you were going to go. What kind of made you arrive at that conclusion at 30 that it's time?
Well, I gave all my 20s to jiu-jitsu, and towards the end of that time, you know, jiu-jitsu was evolving, but it was, I'd been there and done that so many times. It was the same kind of season, the same events. I'd competed against everybody and everybody multiple times, you know, all the legends of my era. I had competed against many times. And towards the end, it was just I was starting to lose the fire a little bit. And a lot of events, I think I showed up not 100% inspired. I was just there because it's like, okay, this is what I do. I do the Pan, I do the Worlds, and then maybe I do Brazilian Nationals, maybe I do Europeans, maybe I do a World Pro. And it was just, okay, the same season over and over and over again. And the game was changing a little bit too, and there were some things where I felt like it was getting even more sporty. It was kind of getting further away from the essence of combat. 50-50 was coming around, and you know, lapel guards, and the ability for someone to kind of stall you out and tie you up was hitting another level, and there were some frustrations inside of that, but mainly it was just I wasn't as motivated every time. Now, if I went to Brazil or, you know, of course the Worlds, there were moments where I was like really fired up for sure, but there were a lot of times where I felt like I was just kind of going through the motions. And by the end of it, I was just like, man, now it's time. I know I need to do this, or I want to do this, and of course I'm getting older now. I'm in my 30s. I say, I need to do this now.
Yeah, now's the time.
Yeah, and then let's see what happens. I wasn't sure if I would really enjoy it, but I knew I wanted to experience it, and I had to put myself in that challenge as a martial artist. I wanted to know what I would do. Like, how am I going to react? I'd never even been in any sort of street altercation. So the only fights I've ever had in my life are my professional fights.
Well, luckily for anyone that would have faced you on the streets, that never happened for them.
Yeah. I mean, I'm so chill. And so,
Isn't that the case though? It seems like the tougher men get on the mats or in a training environment, the less aptitude they have for any type of confrontation or violence off the mats.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Is that when you retired from Worlds In? I remember you retired and put the belt down and did that.
So that was when I came back.
That was when you came back. Okay.
Yeah. So I never really said an official goodbye to jiu-jitsu or anything like that. And to be honest, I mean, I stopped doing the Worlds. I stopped doing the whole circuit and all that kind of stuff. But I still did some super fights, mostly no gi stuff. But every now and then I put the gi on and do a match or do Master Worlds. But 100% my focus was MMA. And what it surprised me was how much I loved it. I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting, just because it is violent and the crowd, the scene is so different. I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure how much I would enjoy the whole process and being in the cage and you know, I didn't know, man, am I even gonna like hitting somebody and, you know, doing that kind of stuff.
And then you found out, I actually do.
Basically, it was never about hurting anyone or anything like that. But what I fell in love with was just, I mean, all of it, but mainly the process of preparing, because it brought my whole life of martial arts together. The striking and of course the jiu-jitsu and the wrestling. And so it gave me these opportunities where I could bring all these coaches together that I've grown so close to in my life. And the crazy thing was just how fun it was to be in camp and have all of us together. So, I mean, we're talking about my Muay Thai and MMA coach. We're talking about Shanji, you know, who's my brother, my main training partner, the guy that was behind the jiu-jitsu part of the MMA coaches. And, you know, they'd all come together. They'd all clear out their schedule and come together to be a part of my camp. And then of course be there for the fight. And
would you do what, an 8-week camp or so?
Man, I was more like 10.
Okay.
Sometimes 12. But I would have this time where we'd all be together, and everyone has their own schools and their own crazy schedule and all that kind of stuff. And I would joke about it. It's like, man, the only way to get all of us together like this is if someone's getting married, if on the sad side, if there was like, you know, trouble or a passing or something like that, where I want to be there to support, or a fight, right?
So it was a way of getting all your brothers together.
Yeah, exactly. And then the starting over on the learning process, feeling like a white belt again, and developing my game and my style, and just being a student, and feeling the challenge of climbing a new mountain, you know, climbing a new ladder and working my way up. And then of course the feeling of being in the fight itself, where you're just in this incredible zone, adrenaline, and how everything moves so slow but so fast at the same time, and you're just reacting. You know, jiu-jitsu, I'm very kind of like an introvert. Like I think so much, and I have this plan and this strategy, and I want to control and really just know every movement. You know, I want to be able to read and understand and blah, 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 blah. And maybe I overthink sometimes in jiu-jitsu. MMA, I really learned how to let go.
Oh, okay.
Like you can't control. You know, it's chaos.
Just be in the moment.
You don't know what's going to happen. I can't say I'm going to put him here and then he's going to do this and then I'm going to do that. And then I know his game. He's going to react like this. And then I'm going to capitalize on that and da-da-da-da-da-da. And, you know, I can do that in jiu-jitsu. I can just put you into, you know, my puzzle and just take away all the pieces and boom, take you all the way to the finish.
Yeah, I got to feel it last night.
But in MMA, you just have to let go and trust. trust your training, trust your coaches, trust your technique, trust your abilities, and just let it all play out the way it's supposed to play out.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but from the outside looking in, it seems like as soon as you went into MMA, like you didn't have any gimme fights, right?
No,
you went
no.
right. Did you go right into Bellator because you already had a name?
I started in Legacy.
Legacy, okay.
And immediately I didn't do any amateur fights. Immediately I was fighting guys that had 5 or 6 fights.
And that's a huge, for people that don't know, like the difference between the amateur circuits and the pro circuits is substantial.
Yeah.
And then to be going against guys that have 4, 5, 6 fights, like right out of the gates.
Yeah.
That's huge, man.
Yeah.
And you found success instantly.
Yeah.
Because you were undefeated, correct?
Yes.
That in itself as an MMA fighter is, it's mind blowing.
Well,
because there's so many things that can go wrong.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what was so crazy about it and that made me fall in love with it. It's just, how am I going to get the job done? I don't know, but I believe that I will. And let's see how it all comes together.
In your earlier fights, did you find yourself, because you came off of a decade of like mainly jiu-jitsu, were you kind of called to bring jiu-jitsu into the octagon, or was
100%?
Okay.
100%.
Because we were all rallying behind you. Like, you're our jiu-jitsu guy,
Yeah.
It's really cool when like Rodolfo Vieira, Buchecha, when the greats go get in the cage, that's like a big inspiration to the community.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
and you were one of those. You were one of the pioneers of that.
Yeah, thank you. I never went into a fight thinking, all right, this is the one where I'm gonna slang and bang. You know what I mean? I'm gonna knock this guy out or whatever. If obviously we start on the feet. We're gonna do Muay Thai. We're gonna exchange some blows. But of course, I always want to take the person to the ground and win as cleanly as possible. That's the game. It's not. It's not go out there and take the guy's head off. It's do damage and receive as little damage as possible.
Yeah. And dude, I love that approach to fighting, because like there's guys that want to watch just 2 guys beat the fuck out of each other. And sure, that can be entertaining. But I remember like when Anderson Silva was in his prime, when he would just dissect guys and take 0 damage, that's like a true expression of a martial artist.
Yeah. Yeah. You want to make them play your game. You want to put them in your best places. And if that's on the feet, great. There's always an element of risk in that. I wanted to take as little risk as possible. And obviously I'm a jiu-jitsu guy, and I believed in my jiu-jitsu 100%, the style of jiu-jitsu that I have. I wanted to express that in MMA. And so I never went out there with any thought of doing anything else but putting the person down. And I think that leads also to longevity, because you're taking less damage, so you can have a longer career, a safer career, still be able to go home to your kids and be normal,
Yeah.
And so yeah, that was always my strategy. But
did you ever get any severe injuries?
No.
Okay.
No, just some cuts. Yeah, which is normal. But
so what, you did a couple fights in Legacy, and then
I did 4 fights in Legacy.
Okay.
I won the title in my 3rd fight, and then I defended it, and then I started getting opportunities to go to a bigger show. I had an offer from UFC, but Bellator was really doing some amazing things at that time, and I'd only had 4 fights, and I didn't want to go to the UFC yet without more experience. And Bellator also was holding shows in Oklahoma.
Okay.
On the border of Oklahoma and Texas is this giant casino, and they would go to this casino and hold events there. And so I had a little bit more leverage with Bellator, with my contract and them coming to my hometown, being able to sell tickets, and then you could have sponsors. UFC, you have to wear their stuff.
Yeah.
And so all of that just made me think, okay, well, this is a good opportunity. I can get paid well, and I can get more experience and work my way up through Bellator. And I always thought that maybe one day I would go to the UFC, or maybe there would be some sort of cross promotion show where I could fight a UFC guy. But also my dream was to fight in Japan at some point in time in my life. And Bellator was working with Ryzen.
Okay.
They were doing a New Year's Eve show every year where they would put Bellator fighters on a Ryzen card, and they would fight the Ryzen guys. And having the opportunity to fight in Japan was something that was very important to me. So I went to Bellator, and then things just happened so fast. I worked my way up.
How many fights was it to the title?
5.
Okay.
So I had 9 fights when I fought for the title. And I just went through the division and, I was finishing pretty much everybody and did the number 1 contender fight and was able to get to the title. And so, that kept me in Bellator. The opportunities were just so good and everything was happening so fast. They were taking great care of me. I had a great relationship with everybody at Bellator. So it got to the title, and that's when, of course, all the drama came about of my medical condition, and things happened the way they did. But I'm very, very grateful that I got to do MMA and get the experience that I gained. And to be honest, I actually feel as though what I'm best at is MMA. I believe I'm better at MMA than what I am at Jiu Jitsu, to be honest. I know that sounds weird, but
your record supports that statement. And beating Gegard Mousasi, for people that don't know, he is a top of the food chain fighter,
especially at that time.
Yeah,
he was dominating everybody. I think he was on like a 5 or 6 year win streak. He had just become the number 1 contender in UFC when he switched over to Bellator, and then he was destroying everybody in Bellator.
What was going into that fight like?
Well, with what I was going through, it was a very, very difficult time.
Okay.
So I don't. If you're not fully familiar with the story, we were first scheduled to fight in January in California. And thank goodness that didn't happen, because then it never would have happened. But he got hurt. So I was in camp already November, December, getting ready for that fight in January. And in December, he had to pull out because of an injury. And I sat on the sidelines and I was waiting. And finally we got rebooked for June in London. And so super pumped about that. Wembley Arena, like, world title fight against a legend, and that's more or less his backyard. Being a European, he'd done a lot of huge fights in London in the past, and obviously he's going to bring a big fan base there. He's from the Netherlands, so super pumped up about that. But I get in camp, doing my camp, and we're about 8 weeks out from the fight, and London required a lot of medical stuff to get approved to fight for the commission there. And one of the requirements was to do a brain scan. And this was the first time I had ever been required to do a brain scan.
Okay.
California requires it. Nevada, if you fight in Vegas. But this was the first time every other fight I had done had been in a location where I wasn't required. You got to do the blood work and drug testing, all that kind of stuff, but not a brain scan. So I go in to do my brain scan, typical, just sign my paperwork, just get this done.
Yeah, zero concerns.
Yeah, zero. And they do the scan, and immediately the radiologist, first, the machine already stopped, and he wasn't calling me out. He wasn't saying anything. And I'm like, dude, can I get out of this thing now? Like, let's go. And he took a long period of time, and I didn't know what was going on. Finally, he came in, got me, pulled me out, and was like, hey, man, I don't know how to tell you this, but you have a problem. And I'm not quite sure what it is. And then he even pulled me into the room to show me on the screen. He's like, look at this. And he showed me, it was kind of almost like this table. There was these little cloudy blobs or whatever in my brain. And he's like, yeah, you see all this? This is not normal. And then he started asking me questions. Have you had some concussions? Do you have any issues, any problems? Is there anything that you're aware of? I was like, no, man, I've never been knocked out. No issues whatsoever. I don't even have headaches. I have no idea what this is. And he's like, well, look, I can't sign your paperwork. I can't approve you. And you should go see a specialist. And he actually called. He said, "Look, I'm going to do some research. Come back the next day, and I'll give you your pictures, the screenings, and you can take it to a specialist." And I went back the next day to pick up the CD, and he said that he had done some studying all night. He's like, "Look, I think you have this condition called cavernoma." I was like, well, what's that? What does that mean? Da, 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 da. I was like, so you're still not going to sign my paperwork? You know, I mean, I just sign it.
Let me fight. Yeah. And then we'll figure it out.
Yeah. Just whatever. And he said, no, go see specialists. I don't know exactly, what to tell you, but with what I do know, you should not be fighting. Huge blow, right? Huge blow.
Yeah.
I'm less than 2 months away from the fight. And so I spend the next 2 to 3 weeks going to every doctor possible. And I already had my ticket to go to Brazil for that portion of my camp. I always went to Curitiba, the south of Brazil, to do the most intense part of my camp, where I'm doing a lot of sparring and kind of like Rocky style, Rocky IV when he goes to Russia. Like that's how I always envisioned that stage.
Still embodying the martial artists.
Well, just sacrifice. You got to get away. You got to get out of your comfort zone, and you got to, just put yourself in that place where you know that you've done everything possible. And for me, that was going to Brazil and doing the hard sparring and just being in a room where basically I'm getting beat up. You got to get beat up. And you got to be in a place where you have to dig deep. And I also want someone else to be in charge. I want to show up. I don't want it to be at home where I have so much control and comfort.
Yeah.
So I was going down there, and that same day when I picked up the CD was the day I was flying to Brazil. And so I'm on the flight, and I'm traveling to Brazil, and I just have all these thoughts in my head. And of course, I'm Googling on my way, and I see all these like horror stories of people with this condition. And they have to have numerous brain surgeries, and they have severe symptoms, seizures, coma, paralysis, even death. And I just have all these thoughts running through my mind, just like, man, what's wrong with me? Is this going to shorten my life? Am I even going to be able to do the fight? All that kind of stuff. And it was just super heavy on me right away. And then I'm in Brazil, and fortunately, my coaches who are from Curitiba, they are like kind of local heroes, local legends. So they have a lot of connections, and they knew a lot of doctors and obviously training fighters and doing medical stuff for other fighters. They had met everybody on the scene. And so I used all their connections, and I was just trying to see as many doctors as I could. And after seeing a few doctors who all said no, like big no way, stop training, stop fighting. You can't get hit in your head anymore. Even a couple people said I shouldn't even be doing Jiu Jitsu because getting choked and having the blood supply to my brain be affected could be dangerous. And so I'm getting all these no's and all of this feedback that was just like terrible while I'm training, preparing for this fight.
Were you still like, fuck it, I'm going no matter what? Or was there a party that's like, man, does this make sense?
I had all of those thoughts running through my mind. Like, what do I do? I kept thinking about Muhammad Ali and Parkinson's and just, man, I wasn't a father yet, but I knew I wanted to be. And I was just like, man, am I cutting my life short? Is this worth it? But inside all of that was just a lot of personal reflection. I wasn't sleeping. I was so emotional. I was crying like every day. And of course, I wasn't training well because I had all this stress. Of course. And so I'm trying to prepare for this fight and be confident. But number one, I don't even know if the fight's going to happen. Number two, I'm really concerned about my overall health. And so I was just an emotional wreck, and I was performing terribly in my training. And so then that would make me even more emotional, and every punch that I took during this time when I was sparring, I was just like, man, is this going to be the punch that takes it over the top? And
it makes it almost impossible to just be present in camp.
I was a mess. Like completely a mess. But inside of that time, and I was taking a lot of walks. The city that I was in has a lot of parks, and I always enjoy walking. I enjoy my personal time and reflecting and all that, and just feeling a deep sense of purpose, right? And using that as motivation and fuel. During that time, while I was reflecting and thinking about everything, I came to the decision that I must do whatever it takes to get this fight. If this is the last fight I ever do, I must have this fight because I need to know that I was on that level.
Yeah.
It's a world title fight, a lifelong dream. It's my whole life's work, right, to get to this point, and I need to at least have the opportunity to go for it. And if I lose, okay. If I win, okay. At least I know I did it. I was there, and I challenged myself at the highest level against one of the best of all times. And it's for my team. It's for my family. It became bigger than me, and I was willing to accept whatever would come out of it. I accepted the fact that, okay, maybe this does do the damage that affects me later in life. I'm willing to accept that.
Wow.
And that helped me keep going after all the no's. It got to the point where we weren't even going to the doctor's office anymore. We were just sending the scans and calling them on the phone and not even going in. And they would just tell us no over the phone. There's no way I'm signing the paper. There's no way I'm writing a letter. There's no way I'm going to say that's okay.
So is that what the search was for then? Just if you could find a reputable doctor that said, you know what, give him a chance?
Yes.
Okay.
And literally it came down to the last freaking doctor, man.
Wow.
The last one. And he was the most prestigious one. He was a professor. He was a neurologist and a neurosurgeon. Most of the people that I was seeing were just neurologists. They weren't actual neurosurgeons. They didn't have actual experience doing surgery on people with my condition. And so he was the most experienced, the elder, the one that taught a lot of the doctors that I'd already talked to. And he was the busiest. So that's why he was the last one, because we couldn't get in to see him until like 2 weeks later. Mm-hmm. And so finally, last doctor, last appointment. And I had already kind of given up. In fact, a few days before, so we saw him on Monday. The Thursday before, in the sparring that day, I tore my hamstring. I was so stressed, so not in a good place. And I wasn't performing well that day. And I even asked the guy, hey, let's do one more round. I want to do an extra round. And that's how it always is, right?
I was just going to say,
that's how it always is.
It's always that last round.
Always, when you're pushing more than what you should. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to end in a good note, and I wasn't happy with how I was performing before that. So I said, oh, let's go one more round. And sure enough, in that round, I was defending a takedown, and I planted my base. He was trying to throw me. He was a judo guy. And my leg just went from bent to straight. And I was wearing shoes, and the shoe kind of got stuck on the mat, and it just stretched my hamstring. There was a really loud pop. It hurt so bad. And I had to get carried out of the academy that day. And I was, of course, crying. I was a mess. And that day I kind of gave up. I told my coach, like, man, there's no way, man. I can't do this. It's not happening. Now I'm hurt. Like, this is... all the signs are there. This is it. And he kept me somewhat in a decent place. It was like, look, just don't give up yet. We have this one more appointment on Monday. Just get through the weekend. And that weekend was so rough. Because I couldn't walk now. Mm-hmm. And
the fight at this point is
like a month away.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I get through that weekend. It took every ounce of willpower I had to just not binge eat. Mm-hmm. That's actually something I talked about on Joe's show. Because I was so sad. I just wanted to eat. I was dieting, and I just wanted to give up.
Yeah.
But I didn't. And I didn't binge. I didn't have. There was the Airbnb I was staying at. The host was so nice. They had like chocolate all throughout the apartment, like just snacks to be nice. And I told Shanji, he was staying with me there. I said, Shanji, you eat all this chocolate right now.
Get rid of shit.
Get rid of it. But anyway, I got through the weekend, and then that Monday went to see the doctor, and he was the first one to ask me how I felt. The first one that didn't just look at my scans and say, no, don't fight. He asked me, well, how do you feel? Do you have any symptoms? Are there any issues? And then he did some tests. my balance, my eyesight, and just some cognitive stuff. And he's like, yeah, I can see you're perfectly normal. And basically, he just said, look, there is no evidence out there that's going to support that any sort of trauma or head impact is going to make your condition worse. Your condition could worsen at any time. There's no way to predict that any one thing is going to make it worse or make it turn to a point where, okay, now I might have to have brain surgery. And he said that, look, as long as you're getting regular scans done, and if we see that there's a change, then we're going to have to make changes. But if you're getting regular scans done and nothing is changing, I support you continuing on with your fighting career. And he wrote out a whole letter, put all of his, his titles and basically just saying, that he's a voice of this, and put all of his experience there. And I sent it all in. I held on to it for a little bit, and I kind of sent it to Bellator with a little bit less time, just so they wouldn't have time to find a replacement. But got it all sent into them, into the commission there, and then they had to talk it out. And they made a panel and try to decide, is it okay, is it not okay? And I'm still in camp. I'm hopeful, right? And I'm back in the game. Now I'm trying to heal my leg and do whatever training that I can, which was not good. That was a whole other stress, because now I can't wrestle because my hamstring is hurt.
Yeah.
And I couldn't throw kicks, and the kicking was a big part of my game. And so I'm like literally just doing boxing, and that's the last thing I wanted to do with Musashi.
Yeah.
And so there were still difficulties, but now I had hope. And basically, literally, like I was sitting on all these saved itineraries. I didn't want, because I had my coaches and everyone that I wanted to fly out, the Airbnb, all this kind of stuff. I had it all picked out, but I hadn't booked it all yet. And finally, two weeks before the fight, the commission got back to me and said, okay, we're going to approve you. You're good to fight. But we're going to have to look at this afterwards. You're going to need to get more scans done. We're not sure.
Okay.
But we're going to let you do this fight. And 2 weeks to go. And literally that day, I got the email. We were all in the car when I saw the email, and I just got so excited, so happy. Like, yeah, we're going to fight. And then, went to train, and then I booked everything. And we left like 2 days later because I wanted to go early.
Yeah.
To adjust in London and all that. And that was it. Was able to do the fight, won the fight, and it was a grind of a fight.
Yeah.
All 5 rounds, go to the championship rounds for my first time. Huge underdog, never done that many rounds, and I'm going against a guy who's been doing 5-round fights for
forever,
for a long time. And had a lot of experience, 50 fights he had. He was like 45-5. Mm-hmm. It was my 10th fight, just everything was working against me. But all that whole journey within the journey, right, of just getting approved to fight, I had to dig so deep. And although that time of reflection, it took me to this place where I just knew how bad I wanted it, right? And what it meant to me. And it was like, man, he doesn't want this as much as me, right? And he was even vocal at that time that he was mostly about the money, and he just wanted to, he had a fat contract with Bellator, and that's why he switched, because they were going to pay him more than the UFC. And it's like, this isn't about money for me. Mm-hmm. This is much, much deeper. For legacy, for my team. I wanted my coaches to be able to say that they had trained a world champion fighter. For my father, for the way that he raised me as a martial artist. Like, all of these things I just really honed in on. And my sense of purpose was just on another level. And when the fight got hard, I didn't have to dig deep. I was already. You were already there. I was already there. Yeah. I was already there. Just going into that cage, especially with my health issues and all that. I mean, like I said,
knowing that this might be the last one.
I was willing to accept whatever, but I know that I have to give my absolute best and see this through. And when it came down to that 5th round, it was just like, like, okay, this is it. This is what it was all for.
What did the scorecards end up being?
So it was 2-2.
Okay. So everything's riding on this 5 minutes.
Yeah. And
Your whole life's work.
Exactly.
Wow.
And that
dude.
last round was my best round. I didn't even get touched in that last round. It was my most dominant round. And you know, there's so many layers to that. I talked about it on Joe's show as well. Like I had this book that was so meaningful to me. It's called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And it came to me in a time earlier in my life when it hit me hard, this book. And really, you know, it showed me the things I was doing right and it showed me other things I wanted to do better on. But it was a big source of inspiration for me for my Jiu Jitsu career. And then when I started fighting again, I would take that book, or when I started fighting, I would take that book backstage with me and I would read a little bit of it to just help me get in the zone before my fight. And I literally hadn't opened it since my last fight. But I had the flap saved on a part of the book. And when I was backstage for the Musashi fight, I opened it up where it was last saved, you know, where the flap was. And the first thing I see is a highlighted text. You know, I highlighted a bunch of things and put my notes in the book. And the first thing I see is this highlighted text that says, every adversity carries with it the seed of an equivalent advantage. You know, so your obstacles and the temporary failures and all the adversity, everything you go through that is hard and makes you wonder what if or how or why, that's where your strength comes from. Seeing it through and using it to make you better, using it to keep pushing and learn and just you know, never give up. And that was the first thing I saw. And so I was like, man, all of this, I already had the hardest fight of my life just to get to this fight.
Yeah.
And I said, this is why I'm going to win. I'm going to win. And I remember this feeling coming over me and I smiled and I got a little emotional and I just looked at my coaches and I looked at everyone who was with me. You know, my father was always in my corner. You know, my brothers, my coaches, who are the people I love the most, right?
Yeah.
Like we've been together for 10, 20 years. And I just felt this extreme sense of gratitude and strength. And I was like, man, that's why I'm going to win tonight, because I'm here. I didn't give up. I didn't accept what all the no's, you know, what everyone was saying. And then there I am in the fifth round. And I had this saying that I always used to motivate myself in sparring and training for my sprint days, conditioning days, any of the hardest days. When it came down to the last round, I would tell myself, the last round is your best round. The last round is your best round. The last round is your best round. And as I'm going out to do the fifth round, when I'm in the corner, Shanji yells at me. First, he's motivating me, pumping me up. It's like, just one more takedown for your life, for your life's work. Just one more takedown to accomplish your dream. Because I knew if I could take him down in the fifth round, I was going to win.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, the last round is your best round. Because I would always say that.
Yeah.
I would pump everybody up around me. You know, it's the last round's my best round. The last round's our best round. And so they knew that was already something I would say. And then there I am, final round, and it was my best round.
You manifested it.
Yeah, yeah, and that's something that I carry with me to this day. I put that out there. I have a last round, best round Instagram and website, and that's the name of the documentary that Will Harris did.
Okay.
For my fight in Japan, and that's it, man. Like just you know, the ability to dig deep and never give up. You know, that's what I stand for. I wasn't supposed to be where I am today. Like, who would think that a kid from Oklahoma would do what I've done in Jiu Jitsu? You know, I took so many losses in my career, in my life, and had so many hardships, having to travel all the time to learn, to just be on a mat and in a place where I could ask a question and someone could answer it. Mm-hmm. You know, and I was never a world champion at the lower belts. I know you had Adam Wardzinski on here recently. He has a similar journey. You know, all the losses that you take, but you keep going. It just makes you stronger. It just, makes your story greater.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's what it's all about. And you never know when it's going to click. But then when it clicks in the most beautiful way. And then all those hardships help you evolve to a stronger person. So then when it happens, you can make it happen over and over again. And that's what MMA, where I feel like I did so good in MMA. The sense of inspiration was at its all-time high because it was a representation of my whole life. Jiu-Jitsu is just one part.
Yeah.
You know, it's a big, big part. It's my first love and passion, 100%. But I'm a martial artist, you know, and this takes me like Jiu-Jitsu. I didn't grow up doing Jiu-Jitsu. My dad wasn't a black belt. You know, it wasn't like that thing. There was another part of me of my martial arts upbringing that you don't see in Jiu-Jitsu, right? But MMA encompassed everything. And so I was always on this extra level of purpose and inspiration for all my fights. And then that one in particular, with everything I went through, is just like, man, this is destiny. And it was one of the best nights of my whole life, and just such a beautiful thing. But then of course everything went down afterwards, and multiple commissions just wouldn't let me fight anymore.
That was it.
Yeah, that was it.
Well, man, I hate that we have to do this. Because, dude,
Man,
it's already been an hour and 12.
Flew.
It flew by. This is what I would
feel
love.
like there's so much more to talk about.
That's what I was just going to say. This is what I would love to do, because we got to get you to the airport. I don't want you to miss your flight. But I would love to bring you up and have you do a seminar for my team.
That'd be amazing.
And Knockout Part 2, because I feel like we're just getting into it.
Well, we got time for a little bit more if you want to ask one more thing.
Well, the one thing that I did want to close with today was, watching you instruct for 2 hours last night. You know, I've trained with a lot of good guys, and I've been to 1,000 seminars, but the way in which you could we really talked about one position, give or take, for about 2 hours. And I realized Lovato is an absolute master of his craft, because you even said as we got started, you're like, when I teach seminars, I don't come with something planned out. I like to see what the team needs, and then we build the evening around the needs of the team. And Andrew said, well, how about some pressure passing? And just watching like every little detail, the minutia of it, those 2 hours changed my jiu-jitsu. And I love it when you can just go attend a seminar and feel like you leveled up in a 2 hour block of time. And then you mentioned like, hey, all this stuff's available on your website, and you have online training curriculums and stuff. And I can tell you from just spending 2 hours with you that the knowledge in which you're capable of sharing is invaluable to grapplers. And I just wanted to let listeners know, if you really want to get high-level instruction that can be applicable to your jiu-jitsu damn near immediately, go check your stuff out. Yeah, because there's plenty of guys that are good grapplers, and then when they teach, they don't have the ability to articulate their skills. And that's not the case with you. It was really fascinating and enjoyable to watch. And I plan on joining that and being a part of that, because I want, I got a little taste of it. But I would just encourage people to go to that website and really get to learn from you and be a student under you, because it was truly fascinating. So I'd like for you to just kind of touch on that, and then let people know like where they can go to pursue that and find you and whatnot.
Okay, sure. Yeah. Thank you so much for the kind words. I've been teaching since I was 15, regularly, with the academy that my father had. And him just needing some help, and the fact that we were always the two most senior people. I started teaching at a young age, and like I said, I wanted everyone to know what I was learning, so they could help me develop the techniques and the positions that I was learning. So I started traveling a lot around 15 to learn and train in other places. And then, like I said, I went to Brazil when I was 16, and just bringing all that back home, I wanted to give it to our students. And so now, I'm 42, so I've been teaching 27 years regularly, like every day. And it molded me so much into who I am as a martial artist. And then I found my sense of purpose with teaching on so many levels. from the technique to just trying to motivate and inspire people and just give them mindset to approach to their journey and their training. And so I love to teach. I really, really love to teach.
Which was very evident last night.
Thank you. Thank you. I want people to feel that. You know, for me, it's an opportunity to make an impact and to leave someone with something that they'll never forget. The best compliments I can receive are that one class, that one seminar, that camp, or that video, or whatever, that series that you released. That time that I got to learn from you, it changed my game. And it helped me. I'm still using that stuff that you showed me 10 years ago today and made me who I am today. And then, of course, the motivation, the mindset. If I can help you understand and guide you a little bit on your journey and help you show up the next day when maybe you might not have, you know, and help you go a little bit further, a little bit longer to help you get through whatever hump or whatever is going on in your life. You know, and keep going. If I can help you do that, then I've done my job.
Yeah.
And so that's what Timeless Jiu-Jitsu stands for to me. So Timeless Jiu-Jitsu, that's my motto, my brand, what I like to pass on to people inside Jiu-Jitsu. And it's basically just living Jiu-Jitsu forever as a lifestyle. And inside of that is the three things that I live: being a forever student, always learning, always continuing to evolve, seeking out knowledge and mentors in every facet, and then teaching, giving back your knowledge. And when you do that, you make yourself better, because now you have to understand your whys and how to communicate your whys and how everything works. It's not just, oh, it works like this, but why? Why do you do it that way versus this other way? You know, there's so many variations, and what do you have to say about that? And so it just makes you better. And then being a forever fighter, and that can mean many different things, but just basically means getting out of your comfort zone and challenge yourself. And obviously with me, it's jiu-jitsu competition, and other things that I do in my life to challenge myself. But I think without getting out of your comfort zone, you won't continue to evolve. And so if I continue to compete and continue challenging myself, I will keep myself at the highest level, right? And then I'll continue to learn, because I'm never going to be perfect. I'm going to make mistakes. And if I stay in my little comfort zone over here where I'm the top guy or whatever, then I'm going to get stagnant. Yeah. And my evolution stops. So I keep challenging myself at the highest levels.
Can we anticipate you being like a megaton? We're gonna see you for life on the mats.
Oh yeah, that's 100%. There's no doubt. Now there will be a day where I'll just do the master stuff. And that day is much closer than what it was a while back. But I live jiu-jitsu through and through, and I know this about me. I'm a competitor. I love that feeling. I love, expressing myself through my technique, through my art. And it helps me, helps me stay sharp. And I want to lead by example. I want to be out there in the front with my guys. I don't want to just talk about it. I want to do it with them.
Well, and I can tell you, man, because I competed a lot when I was in California. I moved up here, started the academy. And then as the head professor, I just wasn't competing a lot. Mm-hmm. And when I started competing again, it lit a fire in this place like I'd never seen before. Because when they see professor doing 100%. It changes the dynamics of the academy.
Yeah. When I run competition training at my school, I'm right in there with them, doing everything with them. Mm-hmm. And I there's another side where you could say, oh, sitting back and watching, you can help look at every detail and all that kind of stuff. And that's valid. There's
some validity in that.
Yeah. But I try to do both.
Yeah.
I try to do both. And, but all my guys tell me how much it motivates and inspires them, especially my older guys.
Well, bro, it's leadership 101. Yeah. Like ask nothing in the military, ask nothing of your men you're unwilling to do yourself.
Exactly. Just like Michael Jordan said on The Last Dance. And I'm not talking about, 10 years ago when they're seeing me do it right then with them, and I'm pushing with them, and we all grind together. And then the camaraderie, the brotherhood that we create through that is on another level. And so I'll never stop doing that. And once again, it makes me better.
Yeah.
And I continue to learn. So that's more that I get to give back to my students. And so that's Timeless Jiu-Jitsu. So that's what I try to put out there. And that's the website, timelessjiujitsu.com. That's where all my stuff is.
And I'll put all your stuff in the show notes so people can click links directly, make it convenient. But I really encourage people to check that stuff out.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. That's what I love to do, man. And like I said, starting the show, I never imagined it would come this far, and being able to impact so many people around the world and have a voice, have a platform. It really, really means so much to me. And I never knew it would hit this level. And so I'm just so grateful for the opportunities that I have, and being able to travel and connect and build my network, my affiliate schools, help people all over the world, and still be in the game today. It's amazing. So yeah, and getting to meet you and have these opportunities, I mean, it's
super awesome.
It's a beautiful thing.
Well, I know my guys are out front. They wanted to snap a couple pictures before we leave, but yeah, let's plan on part 2.
Yeah, let's do it.
We're just warming up, but appreciate you coming out, man. And let's make sure we get you to your flight on time.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, man.
Thank you.